Today I spent time meeting with all of the members of staff of the university, as well as support staff, external support staff, who worked very hard during the last few days during the late applications process. I thanked the staff and also drew their attention to the fact that the university flag was flying half-mast on our 4 campuses to mark the tragic loss during the stampede on or at UJ on Tuesday this week. We also had a moment of silence that we observed to honor the memory of the late Mrs. Sikwane. Yesterday, that is Wednesday, I traveled to the house of the deceased, to her family. I was joined by Sister Ilana Fenter, as well as by our registrar, Prof. Miller. And we spent some time with the family to convey our deep regret and our condolences and deep sympathies with a tragic death. We also spoke with Hosi, her son, as well as her husband, who had just travelled from London. He, or as a matter of interest, completed his B.Cur degree at the Old Rao, and him and his deceased wife were both professional nurses in the UK, trying to build a better life for themselves and for their children. And so it's a deep and a very sad loss. The important thing for us is that, having had this tragic loss, how is this going to influence the manner in which we deal with late applications in the future? Someone remarked to me earlier today that it is striking that if there had been no tragedy, perhaps we would have gone along merrily in the manner that we had gone before. Now, of course, make that observation with the knowledge, full knowledge, that we had spent the last 12 months making preparations for the late application process. Members of staff had spent hours reflecting on, thinking through, preparing for these 3 days, this window that we had opened for late applications. And of course, we opened that window because we believe that there are young men and women, especially from rural areas, but also from the towns and cities of our country, who would have done well, but for whom the possibility of entering a university only arose at the time when they received their National Senior Certificate result. I think it's important for us to reflect on the state of our nation in respect of this matter. It is clear that the middle classes and the elites in our society are probably well taken care of. But if one reflects on this, perhaps the quintile 1 schools across the length and breadth of our society, serving poor and working class and rural children, are perhaps not in such a position or not capable to receive the information that quintile 5 schools and quintile 4 schools receive. And so it does cause us to reflect on how we can, perhaps in a more systemic manner, work with these quintile 1 and quintile 2 schools to provide perhaps better, that is ourselves, to provide student counseling or career counseling, and to leave forms behind so that these students can make up their minds by the end of June, and then perhaps to go and collect those forms. I was speaking with a journalist from the Mail and Guardian, and suggesting that, as I do now, that it is time that we take action in our communities. We have many religious institutions. We have many societies in our community. There are many organizations embedded in our communities. And so our communities can do much better than they are doing at this point in time. I had a call, by way of example, from one corporate organization earlier this week, in which they sought my opinion on their plan to do something. They are seeking to identify 100 schools with whom they're going to work, typically quintile 1 and 2 schools, where they would go in regularly to go and provide career counseling and guidance, obviously supporting these schools' teachers. And the idea is that they would then find application forms from several universities, leave them at these schools concerned, and then go and pick them up by the end of June, and themselves take responsibility for sending these off to the different universities. And I encourage such activity. And so those of us at the university who are active in community organizations, I offer that as a suggestion, so that we can make much more systemic and deeper interventions than perhaps we are doing by opening the window for 3 days. And so we open that window for 3 days because we consider ourselves to be a mainstream and an embedded university, a university embedded in that mainstream, and committed to ensuring that all students, all children, all young people in the mainstream, that they have an opportunity. But in particular, poor and working class and rural communities have a chance to change their experience, to turn the cycle of poverty, to send perhaps for the first time a young man or woman to university, and to break, or shall I say, to start a new intergenerational chain of university-going men and women. And so that is some of the explanation as to why the university endeavors to open that window. But as I'm suggesting, it's important for us to consider much more systemic interventions. And I would encourage us, currently we have about 250 community engagement projects in the university. I would encourage us all to examine our projects and to see how we can play a role to turn around this tragedy into a fundamental shift and change into a positive outcome, so to speak. And so as we go forward now with the registration process, we of course will have learned much from this recent few days, and I'm certain that we will redouble our efforts to ensuring that we provide an outstanding service to the men and women who come to this university, whether as first years or as senior students. And so I want to conclude by expressing my sincere and my deep appreciation to all members of staff who go way beyond the call of duty to make this a fine university, to make this a university that matters, to make this a university that counts in our community, but above all, for turning this into the fine university that it is. Just one example. In the last 4 years, the university has exceeded my own expectations. When I had my inaugural address as Vice-Chancellor on the 1st of September of 2006, I committed the university to doubling our research output, that is our accredited research output, within a decade. It is extraordinary what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. Yes, we have put in place strategies and then programs and activities, and we've put resources behind that. But we can do all of that if there is no excitement, if there's no buzz, if there's no interest, if it does not move people, then that is not going to make a difference. I am amazed, therefore, at what has been accomplished, and that is that we've been able to double our accredited research output within 4 years and not within a decade. This demonstrates to me what we are capable of at this university. And so let us go forward into 2012, not with an albatross on our back, yes, with the memory of Tuesday firmly in our minds and in our hearts, but with the understanding that we can go forward together with strength, and that we are able to do that because as human beings we have the extraordinary ability to draw deep inside ourselves on tragedy, on previous experiences, on struggle, on victories, on successes. Yes, even on those moments when we stumbled, when we fell down, our ability is amazing to rise up, to bounce back, and again to smile, to laugh, and to grow into stronger and better human beings. All the best for 2012. Thank you very much.